Buffalo. What's up, dude? Man, he's eating the hell out of that grass. Okay. So, the other day I was getting my tires changed out and met this guy who also had a Scrambler. And I hit him up, and here we are going for a fucking ride. He's a pretty experienced off-road and adventure style rider, and I'd say this is like the second or third time that I've ever been on a non-paved surface on the Scram. So that's going to be an interesting ride. I think most of our 90-mile loop here is going to be in this kind of off-roadish stuff. Oh, apparently not. Look at that, the pavement cometh back. This is the nice part about moving to Colorado. There's a lot of good riding, and there's lots of people to go riding with. So yeah, I don't know. I don't have a lot to say right now. So I met up with that guy yesterday. Maybe I'll make that the beginning of this video. I don't know. And looked at his Happy Trail panniers. Man, so the thing is, if you're looking at what is it, Tourmaster? They don't even make a rack pannier setup for the Scrambler. But what they do make is too expensive anyways. You're talking in the thousands of dollars, $3, $4, $5. And Metal Mule is the other option for the Scrambler, and they're super expensive. And even if you go and get dry saddlebags like the Wolfman luggage that I have, those are expensive, but more importantly, oh, that was a cop. Those are expensive, but more importantly, they are, you still need a rack for them, and they don't sell a rack for the Scrambler. So you can always use the Happy Trail rack without those Happy Trail panniers. So anyways, the rack is really cool. It's really well constructed. It seems like a really solid thing. The panniers are pretty awesome, and I think like for $1,000 total, it's right around $1,000 for the panniers and the rack. It's a really good deal because you can take those panniers and you can throw them on a totally different bike if you want to. I think the thing that is kind of silly about them is just how fat they make your bike. And then at $1,000, you're going to want to use them more than just when you're touring. You're going to want to use those things a lot more often than that. You're going to want to use them day to day when you're going to work. You're hopping over to the coffee shop and you want to lock something up. So from that perspective, it's like, are they worth it or not? I don't know. I don't know. I think it's to each their own, really, especially with a bike like this. What I will say though is, at $1,000, that's a really low price tag compared to everything else on the market. They're super clean. They look really nice. And at the end of the day, the ultimate question is the Scrambler a touring bike? Well, the answer is yes. You can make it into a fantastic touring bike. That's just the reality. Yeah, so here we are. Pretty fucking epic, right? Kind of nerve-wracking given my zero off-road riding ability. But just let the bike do the work for you. Uh-oh. Got somebody on the road up here. Corgi? Oh yeah. And look at Ray ripping it up. So turn this into my own little Baron von Nightmare. Yeah, this is fantastic. Oh, and you can see the street coming up. Yeah, look at that. It's just beautiful. Holy crap, gotta pay attention to the road. Yeah, there it is. Oh, it's too much fun. It's too much fun. This is why you can't be shy. You must talk to the strangers you meet in motorcycle shops, because you never know what kind of good rides they're going to be able to take you on. If the Triumph Scrambler isn't a decent bad road bike, and if it's not a good touring bike, then what are you buying it for, right? You're buying it for that sexy bar bike. Oh yes. Now this fresh paved pavement, fresh paved pavement, 25 miles an hour, curves ahead. Yeah, buddy. Yeah. Yeah. Look at this. This section might just be us riding our bikes beautifully on the pavement instead of much talking, because I can't say anything. I have nothing to say. It's too good. Interesting discussions I had with both Chris and Ray. So Chris has the Scrambler with the panniers, and he said he went on a big trip from Southern California up through Washington, and he was on his Scrambler. All these guys were on big 1200 GSs and other, you know, huge adventure bikes, the KTM 1190. And guys were just dropping their bikes left and right, and of course everybody's giving him a hard time. Oh, you're on your Scrambler, man, you can't do this. And he said that, you know, his Scrambler held up and worked better than most of those guys on their, you know, off-road adventure rides. He said, you know, ultimately it's just more manageable, and the only reason people don't ride them like adventure bikes is because everybody says you can't do that on a Scrambler. Now, on the other hand, you know, Ray's got a lot more experience with this kind of thing than Chris, and he said, hey, he just took a trip from Oregon all the way up to British Columbia. He rode a 1200 GS, his buddy's bike, who couldn't make it, and he said it was phenomenal. Just so agile and just, you know, a fucking ballerina in deep sand and off-road, you know. Obviously he wasn't doing like single track stuff. We're talking true adventure riding, a little bit of pavement, a little bit of gravel and dirt, and then some off-roading. But he said it was amazing. He said it probably saved his life in one instance. He was going too fast, saw a corner come up out of nowhere, you know, dead cliff, slammed on the brakes, and that off-road ABS just locked it up and, you know, braked in time. Had he been on something like the Scrambler, I mean, he would have just started skidding and, you know, hypothetically just gone right over the edge. So, for what it's worth, I mean, there's different opinions out there on everything. And, I mean, I've never ridden a GS of any sort, let alone the 1200. But Ray's about my size. I mean, he might be, you know, a little bit taller than me, but, you know, the reality is, at 5'9", I don't know. It's a big bike. It's a really big bike, especially to handle off-road. I think if you've got off-road experience, you started riding on a dirt bike or something, then it might be much more manageable. You could actually, you know, make it work for you. Trees. Saw a horse earlier. Saw a horse. Oh man, if this doesn't make you want to get an adventure bike though, I just don't know what will. I knew this was going to be a good day of riding, but I had no fucking clue Look at that water. Look at that. You know, I haven't been out of the house for more than 2.5 hours. I mean, this is like a walk, skip, and a jump away from home. I miss New Mexico, but this is fucking epic. Doo-doo-doo. Now let's do a selfie. Yeah, I mean, some of the shit we just passed by was fucking crazy epic. And this is actually like a quasi-paved road. Back there was nothing but gravel. So, you know, at the end of the day, we haven't done any true off-roading. We haven't been like single tracking it or anything, right? We haven't been crazy adventure riding with loads of stuff. But the question is, you know, could you do this on a different bike? And I think the answer is sort of, well, it depends, right? Like, sure, if you had a Bonneville, you could pull this off on the Bonneville. If you had a Thruxton, it would be tough because of the riding position, but you could make it happen. You had a Ducati Scrambler, you could probably, you know, come do this ride. But if you were on, you know, a big fat cruiser that was 100 pounds heavier than this, and, you know, really low riding stance, or if you were on a sport bike or even a naked bike, I mean, the reality is, it's not so much that you couldn't, it's more that you just wouldn't. You'd never do that. You don't want to mess up your, you know, 675 or your R6 coming down gravel. That's insane. Like, you know, you're not trying to pull a Baron von Nightmare. You're, excuse me. You know, you're gonna take it easy and not do this kind of stuff. You're gonna go canyon carving. So that's what I love about the Scrambler. I mean, I've got a bike that I can actually go do a little drag and knee. Nothing crazy. Don't get me wrong. It's definitely not a sport bike. It's not even up there with some of the, you know, fleshed out naked bikes. But at the end of the day, like, I enjoy it on the street. And then I can bring it down these bad roads and it just handles awesome.